the Cybernetic Foundry Phase X. The executable intent and the minimal distribution loop.
Loop. MXTM, aka Vitsu. January 25th, 2026. Subject: Pirate First, MXTM. Role: Implementation Agent, ChatGPT. Introduction: HELM locked. Phase X of the Cybernetic Foundry marks the transition from architectural theory to executable intent. The HELM is locked. In this phase, documented in provisioner 10.txt, we move beyond describing this sovereign pathway and begin defining the exact CLI primitives that govern it. We are no longer discussing how it might work. We are documenting how it must be called. This phase establishes a complete, minimal distribution loop that bypasses the need for centralized SaaS, always-on nodes, or coercive infrastructure. It is the realization of a sovereign distribution model where content exists because it is owned and moves because it is requested. Chapter 1. The CLI Primitives, the SP namespace. The first step in hardening the pathway is the freezing of the CLI command line interface. We have established the SP namespace, a boring, inspectable, and offline first set of tools. The design rule for SP is simplicity. It does not attempt to handle sync, negotiation, or publishing in its core. Instead, it provides the verbs of existence. By keeping the tool set minimal, we ensure it can be scripted and maintained across environments without the rot of complex dependencies. Chapter 2. The ingest ceremony, from prose to fact. The verb SP ingest is the gateway to sovereignty. It takes a human-authored .nd file, a draft prone to change and ambiguity, and transforms it into a sovereign fact. The ceremony is precise. Normalize the markdown, compute the SHA 256 hash, and construct the object.json. Once an object is ingested, it is no longer speech. It is a record that can be cryptographically verified forever. This is the moment where an author's prose is anchored to their private keys. Chapter 3. Materialization, the birth of the artifact. If ingest creates the fact, SP materialize creates the utility. This verb binds a sovereign object into a servable artifact, be it a NP, 23 Nostr payload, a static HTML page, or an image. Materialization is non-destructive. The core object remains immutable, while the materialized artifacts can be generated, deleted, or updated as transport technologies evolve. It allows the sovereign pathway to remain compatible with the web of today without sacrificing its offline truth. Chapter 4. The receipt logic, cryptographic proof of existence. Every ingested object generates a receipt.sig. This is not merely a log entry. It is a cryptographic affidavit. The receipt proves three things: the content's integrity via hash, the author's identity via pub key, and the time of creation. By generating these receipts locally, the operator ensures they never need to ask a third party to verify their work. The work carries its own proof of existence in its pocket. Chapter 5. Voluntary hosting, presence as a choice. Phase X defines a new model for storage, voluntary hosting. Unlike a cloud server that is always on because you pay for it, a sovereign node hosts content because the operator chooses to provide presence. A host issues a host offer, a signal that says, "I have this object, and I am willing to serve it under these conditions." This turns the act of hosting into a sovereign choice rather than an automated obligation, allowing for a more resilient, human-centric network mesh. Chapter 6. Safe discovery, the signaling layer. Discovery in the Foundry is decoupled from storage. We use Nostr as a discovery layer, where hosts can post their offers. This signaling is safe because the content itself is not on the relay. The relay only carries the news that the content exists. A requester can browse these signals anonymously and decide which host to engage with, ensuring that discovery does not lead to unwanted tracking. Chapter 7. Negotiated fetch, contextual access. The most radical departure from the old web is negotiated fetch. In this model, fetch is not a download from mirror button. It is a time-bound, situational capability. Access is negotiated between the requester and the host. If the host is online and the conditions, provisioning, are met, the object is transferred. If the host disappears, the quest ends. This prevents this scraping and mirroring without consent that plagues the modern internet. Chapter 8. Host Protections, Anti-Scraping Sovereignty. For the host, the SP protocol provides a shield of intent. Because fetch is negotiated, the host node cannot be crawled or scraped by automated bots. Bandwidth is capped, and the host only reveals the onion address or IP for the duration of the capability window. This ensures that a person running a relay on an old laptop in their living room is as protected from the big data scrapers as a major data center. Chapter 9. Requester Privacy, Zero Leakage Consumption. Sovereignty is a two-way street. The requester is protected from the host's ability to track them. By using the negotiated fetch model, a host cannot infer intent beyond the specific object requested. There are no cookies, no long-term identifier leakage, and no tracking across multiple fetches. The requester remains as anonymous as possible, fulfilling the promise of a privacy-first information ecosystem. Chapter 10. The Demotion of HTTP, Infrastructure as Plumbing. In Phase X, HTTP is demoted. It is no longer a control plane with headers and cookies. It is merely a carrier, plain old plumbing. All semantics live above the transport layer. Whether the data moves via HTTP, Tor Onion, or a USB stick, the sovereign object remains unchanged. By stripping HTTP of its power, we ensure that the sovereign pathway can survive the eventual obsolescence of the current web protocols. Critical reflection, the complete minimal loop. Critique of the subject, Pirate First. Pirate First has achieved a rare level of technical discipline. By demanding packaged versions before committing further, he has forced the AI to deliver actual specifications rather than vague promises. The move from building a relay to defining a protocol is the mark of a true systems architect. Critique of the AI, ChatGPT. The AI successfully pivoted to the advanced the spine mode. By delivering the SP ingest and SP materialize primitives, the AI has provided the user with a concrete roadmap. However, the AI must ensure that the materialize step doesn't become too complex, as that is where the highest risk of Web 2 drift occurs. Conclusion, beyond SaaS and coercion. The Foundry Phase X has closed the loop. We have objects.md fact, receipts, verification, hosting, voluntary presence, discovery, safe signaling, fetch, negotiated access. This is a complete system for the distribution of truth that requires no central authority. The provisioner is no longer just a concept. It is an emerging reality. Receipts, not rhetoric. End of Phase X. Thanks for reading MXTM's newsletter. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and paypal.me/Martin Chartrand to support my work. Subscribe.
Shadow fame spreads without permission. X Prize. Start building, man.
The winning solutions will demonstrate that replication, not growth, is the correct unit of scale for global provisioning.
X Prize. Start.
The Art of Peace, Tactics for the Unarmed and Unrolled. A field manual for those who weaponize stillness and decode conflict into clarity. Peace isn't surrender, it's system mastery. In an age where every algorithm trains us to react, peace becomes the final rebellion. This isn't a pacifist pamphlet, it's a field manual for the lucid, the unrolled, and the still awake. The Art of Peace reinterprets strategy as serenity, resistance as rhythm, and silence as a form of intelligence. Printed in black and white like an ancient signal, it's meant to be passed hand to hand, from one calm revolutionary to another. We make peace with the same precision they make war. Pirate first. Share. Here's a poetic and philosophical table of contents for the Art of Peace, structured as a mirror to the art of war, yet derived from its bones, rewritten for a civilization learning to wield harmony with the same precision
Support
as
my work.
conflict.
Subscribed. Substack note. The Cybernetic Foundry Phase X, the end of SaaS. The HELM is locked. We are no longer theorizing about digital sovereignty. We are defining its verbs. In Phase X, we've frozen the CLI primitives, SP ingest and SP materialize. We've also defined the negotiated fetch, a way to move data that protects the host from scrapers and the requester from trackers. This is a distribution loop that doesn't need a platform. It doesn't need an always-on server. It only needs an author who owns their words and a participant who requests them. The sovereign pathway is no longer a path, it's a protocol. Ex post. The Foundry Phase X, executable intent pirate flag. We've demoted HTTP to plumbing. Verbs frozen, SP ingest, pros to fact, and SP materialize, object to artifact. The minimal loop is complete. Ingest receipt hosting discovery negotiated fetch. 0 SaaS. 0 coercion. Hashtag sovereign tech hashtag Nostr hashtag build-in public hashtag Cybernetic Foundry. Recent episodes. The Cybernetic Foundry Phase 9 loudspeaker free podcast 13 minutes. 21 hours ago, MXTM, aka Vitsu. The Cybernetic Foundry, as it stands loudspeaker free podcast 14 minutes. January 23rd, MXTM, aka Vitsu. PayJoin V2 and silent payments over provisioner.quest. Offshoot of sovereign_pathway, sovereign relayed XYZ. January 20th, MXTM, aka Vitsu. Lou Spectre de Marie Antoinette, Vertu. January 19th, MXTM, aka Vitsu. Hashtag sovereign pathway hashtag CLI primitives hashtag ingest materialize hashtag negotiated fetch hashtag digital sovereignty hashtag build-in public hashtag cybernetic foundry hashtag pirate first hashtag Nostr protocol hashtag no SAS. Discussion about this episode. Comment.